and my name is Arpita. I'm going to be your host. We are, I think, a small group today, looks like. Maybe others will join in a while. Before we get into the details, just a few reminders on behalf of Illuminations. I guess because of safety and security reasons, I don't think we can unmute ourselves. I don't know, Pia, just explain, let me know if I'm mistaken. But what I would like this webinar to be is more interactive. So feel free to stop me anytime and ask me any questions that you have. You don't have to wait till the end of the session. Though I have kept some time to talk to all of you at the end. But if there's any question, you can use the chat box, write in your questions. I will periodically check it and I will answer it as we go ahead. Let me just see if I'm able to share my screen with you. Yeah, looks like it. Okay. Great. So welcome to the webinar today, one of my most favorite topics, actually. I hold this science very, very close to my heart, the science of hypnotherapy, the science of the mind. And I'm actually very, very glad that I'm here today to talk to you about just not the understanding of this line of work, just not the science of the mind. Of course, we will get into details on that, but I find it sometimes very intriguing with the kind of questions that I get when I introduce myself that I'm a hypnotherapist. So I thought it is a good idea to actually demystify all these questions, all the myths that we have in our mind about hypnotherapy. And hence, I would like it to be interactive. I have captured a few of the stuff that I hear all the time for many years now, but feel free to bring in more questions and I'll be glad to answer. To begin with, I'm just going to very quickly introduce myself. I see in the participants, there are people, some of them I know. So welcome and thank you for joining me on this webinar. But I also see there are a lot of people new to me. I haven't worked with you, or maybe I don't know you. And for our audience who are watching us on Facebook Live. So yes, on that note, for Facebook Live, I won't be able to see the comments immediately, but I will get back to answering your questions once the webinar is over. So my name is Arpita and I'm a hypnotherapist and a mind science specialist at Illuminations JLT. Illuminations is Dubai's first, largest and the leading well-being platform for holistic healing and mental well-being. And I've been fortunate enough to be associated with Illuminations for quite some time now. This is not the first career that I have. As I say, my first innings has been in the corporate world. So I studied economics, I'm an MBA, and I worked in the corporate sector for more than 15 years, first in human resources and then moving into general management. And then life changed, life happened, I would say, actually. I had my twins, a lot of changes in my life. And at that time, I was very luckily introduced to the science of the mind. And to begin with hypnosis or hypnotherapy. And I came many years back, just like you have probably today, to know more about this line of work. I was struggling with something physical. I had severe motion sickness and I just couldn't find an answer or a solution to that. I had dealt with it, somehow coped with it. And finally, when I looked at these mind sciences, when I looked at the complementary sciences that we work with, it healed me. And when it healed me, I just took a U-turn and I said, okay, I have to know more about it. So that's my journey of from recovering from my own illness of motion sickness. And that brought me to this line. I studied hypnotherapy, I've studied regression therapy. transpersonal regression therapy. I am a facilitator for family constellations as well. And I do a lot of corporate training because, as I say, my first half was in the corporate sector. That's my journey. I honestly didn't plan it, but I'm very grateful that it kind of blossomed. It organically grew in a way that I am here today with you, talking about mind sciences and hypnotherapy, something that is very, very close to my heart. So I would, as I said, if there are any questions, please feel free to stop me at any time and put your questions in the chat box and I will come back to you. This is what I have in my mind for today. So I want to first talk about, all those question marks, all those frequently asked questions about what is actually hypnotherapy. For example, how we see it in movies or we see it in stages for the purpose of entertainment. Is it the same? Some myths that I come across almost every day in my day-to-day work life. Then I introduce you to the science of the mind and come back to the point of relating the science of hypnosis and why is it something that you might be interested in. Maybe just to know yourself better, maybe just to improve your relationships, or maybe you could take it up as a hobby, maybe as a profession. And I'll give you a little bit of a roadmap of, if you're interested, then how you could do that. And then I'll open the forum up for question and answers. I'll be more than glad to answer your questions. So coming to the first segment of today's webinar is we are talking about what is hypnotherapy. So if anybody would like to share, please feel free, come into the chat and let me know, what do you think, what brought you here today? There must be a reason why you're here with me. And we are talking about this, in my mind, a very, very beautiful science. What does hypnotherapy mean to you? So if any of you would like to share, I'll just give it a minute or so. Feel free. What does it mean for you? Or alternatively, what brings you here today? Empowering suggestions to your own mind, Rima. Yes, yes, absolutely. It is one of the very important, and this is how, like, suggestion-based therapy is what hypnotherapy is actually very famous about. Definitely, it is talking to your mind, giving suggestions. But when I get into the details, it is also much more than just suggestions. The type of psychotherapy, no, Neetu, it is a science in itself, and it's a little different from psychotherapy. I'll explain how it is. Ability to discover unconsciously things outside of ourselves. Yes, Marianne, yeah, very, very true, because we are able to manage and discover whatever is there, for us in terms of what we know consciously, but it becomes sometimes very, very difficult because there are patterns, there are blocks, there are issues that are embedded very, very deeply in our subconscious, or what you call the unconscious. So yeah, very, very correct. Change of belief system and behavior is exactly what we use hypnotherapy for a lot. Thank you for sharing it. It just makes it more interactive, and it makes, each one of you are saying the right thing, but from a different angle. So yes, please keep sharing. I will go back to my screen. So when we talk of hypnotherapy, or when we talk of hypnosis, this word actually comes from a Greek word called hypnos. Now, if you translate hypnos into English, direct translation would mean nervous sleep. Now, as you see, nervous sleep is a paradox. You cannot be nervous and sleeping at the same time. So if you're nervous, you will not sleep. And if you're sleeping, that means you're not nervous. So what this means is that hypnosis is a state of mind. It's an altered state of mind in which there are two things that are happening simultaneously. One, your physical body is so relaxed as if you are sleeping. So the sleep part refers to the state of our physical body, and at the same time, you are not sleeping. Your mind is still there. Your mind is actually active, very active. Maybe you can say hyperactive. Now, this nervous doesn't mean anxiety nervousness. This means alertness. So a state of mind in which your body is in a deep state of relaxation, vis-a-vis your mind is very active, is what we call as hypnosis. Now, it's very interesting to note that this is nothing unreal, or this is nothing unnatural. In fact, hypnosis is a state that each one of us experience every single day, at least twice a day. When you get up in the morning, the state between you're completely up and you're not completely up, that time. And when you go to sleep at night. So today, when you go off, when you're ready to go to sleep, be conscious of that time when you switch off the light and you turn and you're ready to sleep now, but not yet sleep. These two times, each one of us experience what we call as hypnosis. So it's a very, very, very natural state of our mind and our body. And if you look at even the history of hypnosis, you will see that this is a technique that has been used for many, many, many hundreds of years. You talk of the Egyptian sleep temples, you talk of the Astro-Babylonian civilization, you talk of shamans. All we are talking about in different language, we are saying the same thing. It's a trance-like state in which your body relaxes or your body is in a rhythm and your mind is very, very active. So it is something, nothing new to us. We know it every day. What we do in hypnotherapy is we clinically create that environment. Hence, you will see a very nice and cozy hypno bed when we are doing our sessions, vis-a-vis making somebody uncomfortable. So it's very, very natural. There is nothing new about this science. We are just calling it probably in different names in different parts of the world and through ages. So if that is so natural now, if that is so real to all of us, still we have a lot of questions, and those are all very valid questions. Even when I was introduced to this science, I had something very similar in mind, because I was also worried that what happens in a session, like do I go off to sleep, do I remember my session, who controls my mind, so on and so forth. So I have with me now this slide where I have put across all the myths, all the questions, all the doubts, fears that I've seen people have, clients that I have worked with. You can please add on more to it. I will be more than happy to answer it. So myth number one is, will I be helpless under hypnosis? Now, I guess this comes from, what we see in movies or what we see in entertainment industry, like stage hypnosis, that I can click my finger and you will start to quack like a duck. Now, this doesn't happen in hypnotherapy. Why? Because in hypnosis, in hypnotherapy, this is a clinical modality. Here, we are not controlling the mind. So mind control is a completely different ball game. Probably it happens, probably it doesn't, but definitely in hypnotherapy, we do not control anyone's mind. So when I am working with a client, a part of client is totally awake and is aware. And if something goes wrong, client is not comfortable, we can come out of it. So you are not helpless. You don't get stuck in a limbo. You don't lose a part of you in another dimension. None of that happens. You are not helpless. You still have the presence of your conscious mind, and at any time, in fact, all the time you are talking to your therapist, and at any time you can take yourself out of hypnosis. So it's not a state of helplessness. To the contrary, it's a state of very, very deep relaxation. Second, not everybody can be hypnotized. Now, if you sleep at night and if you get up in the morning, which means everyone can be hypnotized. Now, it doesn't mean that we go around catching people and saying, we will hypnotize you. No. The conscious mind permission is extremely important. So if I do not want to be hypnotized, nobody can hypnotize me. But if I am willing, so what happens mostly when we work with people, these are people who have certain areas of pain in their lives. Like, for example, relationship issues, or like migraine, physical issues. It could be I have a block with money. It could be I'm feeling very anxious, I'm feeling very worried, I have a panic attack. So it can be anything. It could be mental, physical, emotional, any kind of aspect. Now, these are people who are coming for the service. They are coming to feel better. And they are the people where hypnosis will work. It works on everyone as long as the person gives conscious mind permission. So for us as hypnotherapists, the first thing we do, even before we start a session, is to take verbal, written in whatever form it is, permission from the client that I am ready to experience this science. Once that permission is given, anyone can be hypnotized. It's not that you can't. Different people are different, and different ways of hypnotizing. So the induction techniques vary from one person to the other. And we never work with clients who say, I don't want to be hypnotized. So the only time you cannot work with a person is simply when he or she says, oh, this is not for me, I would not like to be. Number 3, hypnosis is same as sleeping. It's not. You do not come and to do a session and you fall asleep. Hypnosis, so if you look at the brain waves, when we are awake, we are in a beta state in which there's a certain amplitude of the brain wave, there's a certain wavelength. Now, when we start to relax the physical body, our brain waves start to also flatten out and become longer. So from beta, we go into alpha, from alpha, we go to theta, and from theta, we go into delta, which is like sleeping. So hypnosis is not sleeping, it is a sleep-like phase. Why in therapy we do not, you can't put somebody to sleep is because you're still talking, and the story, the reason, the diagnostics also needs to make sense to the person you're working with. So even if somebody does fall asleep, if it is very relaxing, we gently wake that person up. So hypnosis is not that you come, you sleep, I put suggestions and it works. No, hypnosis is a trance state in which, whether we are putting suggestion, whether we are doing the diagnostics, whether we are doing deep healing, it depends person to person. Hypnosis makes you reveal deep secrets against your will. Again, no. I've been asked this so many times, and the answer is no. Because your therapist will have no intention to know your secrets, and there is nothing called against will. Whatever you divulge, whatever you talk about is with, again, conscious mind permission. And it is not to dig out, the idea is not to dig out anything that you don't want to talk about. The role of a therapist is like a GPS. So you are here and you want to reach somewhere else. The therapist is like a GPS who will take you from this pain point to a resolution point. But it is your own journey, and it only happens with your own permission. Then hypnotherapy is like magic. It's a mystical practice. It's not. It does seem magical because we are in awe of what is magical is the power of the subconscious mind. What is magical is that when we understand to use our subconscious mind, how our life completely changes. But the practice is not at all mystical. It is clinical. We are working with real life issues. As I said, it could be physical, it could be mental, or it could be emotional. And the last one that I have heard very recently is hypnotherapists have special powers. No, we don't. We are as human as anyone else. What you have is a skill set, like somebody else has a different skill set. So this is the skill set of that being that GPS, holding that space for the client, leading the client into, unblocking and unpeeling all that is probably stuck in the subconscious and is not serving you purpose. So if it is a special power, then the special power can be with anyone else. You don't need any extra qualifications apart from the fact that you want to learn this science. So these, in my opinion and in my experience as a therapist, these are the major myths that I see, and my clients and people that I work with, they would talk about. I'm going to have a quick look at the chat. Yes, Lira, tapping into your subconscious, absolutely right. Is there any other questions like myths that you have, or anything that you would want to ask, like does this happen in hypnosis or not? Again, you can use the chat box and I will answer all of them. The ones that I showed you are the ones that I very, very frequently encounter. So I'll keep an eye on the chat box. I will go back to my presentation, but feel free to ask if I have not covered, or if there's any other doubts that you have about hypnotherapy as a science. So that gives me now the opportunity to talk a little more about this subconscious space that I'm talking about, you know, what we don't know, what can be healed through hypnotherapy. So that brings me to the topic of mind science, which I hold very, very dearly to my heart, because this was the beginning of my journey into wellness, into well-being, and later on becoming a therapist in this line of work. So let's just, I'm just going to keep it very, very simple. And first and foremost, I want to ask you, what do you think is mind? So please share. It's a very simple question, but it would be very interesting to see how each one of us interpret mind. Okay, I will wait for you guys to comment, and in the meanwhile, I'm going to answer Nicole's question. And the chat doesn't seem to work with me. Yes, it is here. Just give me a moment. Nicole says, do you remember everything that has been said after the session or hypnosis ends? Yes, Nicole, you will remember. In most of the cases, in 90% of the cases, I would say you will remember what has happened, what have you said. However, there are times, rare, but there are times when client can go into amnesia, partial amnesia or total amnesia, and then they may not remember. But it's rare. What mostly happens, Nicole, is people lose the sense of time and space. So a 1 hour session may feel like just 5 minutes. So they would just come up and say, is that it? Like it's over? Wow, that was quick. And then when they see their watch, they'll say, oh goodness, I thought it was just 5 minutes. Or the opposite, like you're in a session for 40 minutes and you wake up and say, oh my God, this was like 4 hours I've been in the session. So the loss of this understanding of time and space happens. Again, space in terms of where I am, because sometimes you go back in time, sometimes you look at your future possibilities. So time space distortion is very, very common, but you do remember most of the times. Okay, so now I have answers saying your conscious thoughts and personality is your mind. Thought producing invisible machine. Yeah, that's a very nice way of saying it. Cognition, mind is all of the mental processes and thoughts that occurs in a person's brain. Thank you, Camille, for bringing up the word brain, because I'll get into the details. A brain is completely different from mind. And as you say today, when I came into this line of work, this was exactly what was my thought, that you think, so we even point to our brains, but mind and brain is very different. I'll come to that. Lira says mind is what brain produces through waves and thoughts. Okay, I get a hang of what you're saying. All of you are right, again, in your own way. Now, let me explain in terms of, what it means when we talk of mind in holistic sciences. So mind, to begin with, is not a part of the physical body, the tangible physical body, or the brain. Mind is like the very nice way of explaining it is like, how I'm reaching to you. Like I have a laptop in front of me, which is my hardware. So every time I change the slide or I do something with the chat box, I am actually accessing the hardware of the computer. I'm touching the keyboard and I'm reaching out to you. But just having the laptop doesn't allow me to reach out to you. I am using a software which is called Zoom. So exactly in the same way, mind is the software that works on the hardware. So they are related, they interact all the time with each other, but they're two completely different things. They are not, one is tangible. So one way of looking at it is your brain is your tangible part of your body, but your mind is an intangible asset with which you are experiencing life. As one of the participants said about brain, so when I was studying, I actually looked up Oxford Dictionary to see what does the dictionary say about mind. And even if you look at the Oxford Dictionary definition, it says it's an element of a person that enables them to be aware of their world and experience. That first sentence talks about it being intangible. So this is something, mind is something we can only experience. We cannot touch it or feel it like the way we do for our physical body. And each one of you said a part of this definition. You said it's an, you know, it's about thinking, it's about feeling, it's the faculty of consciousness, and it's the faculty of thoughts. So that someone said invisible thought producing machine. All of that put together is mind. So then it brings me to the next question, then where is my mind? Like if it's not in my body, it's not in my brain, then where is it? So again, in holistic sciences, we talk of mind as a tool. Now, this is an instrument or a tool that's extremely powerful that we are using to navigate through life. Now, as I said, brain is the hardware and mind is the software. How we define the presence of mind around us is we say that mind is like a vibrating ball of energy located all around you. So imagine a sphere in which you are there. The center of this mind is at the pit of your stomach. Now, I found it very, very interesting when this was introduced to me many years back, that we're talking of this intangible ball of energy all around me through which I'm experiencing life. And more interesting is we say that the center of which is at the pit of the stomach. Now, what is at the pit of the stomach? If you look at it in terms of human anatomy, physiology, we will see what we have is the gut, the intestines, the stomach. And the function of the gut, of the gastrointestinal tract in our body is not feeling, thinking, any of that. The function is to digest the food we eat. Then why do we have this definition? And we have it because this is where the gut is one of those points where we say the mind and the body is interacting. So different schools of thought have different views on it. Some say, you know, the brain is one center, some say the heart is one center, and some say the gut is one center. So this is your hardware and the mind is working through it. This is so beautiful to see that this is where the term gut feeling comes from. My gut technically doesn't feel anything. And yet we feel the butterflies in our stomachs and the rumblings and, you know, all kind of feelings. Why? Because there is an innate intelligence, and the epicenter of that intelligence, the epicenter of the mind is in the gut. So that's how we look at mind as the software. And this software is developed very early on in life. I'm coming to that in details. So this is a software we develop in the first 8 years of our life. And thereon, we are just running that program. And that brings me to a little more details. I'll not go into a lot more details, but a little bit for you to understand, you know, how fascinating this science is. As we all know, we have a mind which is conscious, and we have a part that is subconscious. Now, this conscious part of the mind, if you look at the diagram, imagine this is like an iceberg. We are only aware of the top part, which in a big estimate, we are saying it's 10 to 12, but some schools of thought believe it's less than 5%, which means there is a huge part of that iceberg, which is below the level of the ocean that I cannot see, which is somewhere 90 to 95% maybe. What do I do with my conscious mind? I do all of this. I think, I logic, I analyze, I feel, I make my decisions, I have my judgments. So you see, just by using, say, approximately 10% of our mind, we are living our entire lives. And that makes us wonder then what is happening in the subconscious space? Why do we have like that 90% there in the subconscious space? Now, if you look at the functions of the subconscious mind, it's very interesting. It doesn't have a list of things it does. It just does two very, very critical things. Number one, it keeps us alive, so survival. If I ask you that each one of you, please raise your hand, left hand and wave at me, each one of you can do it because I know this is my left, this is my hand and I can wave. But if in the same breath, if I tell you that now so easily you could wave your hands, why don't you control the rate at which your liver is functioning at this very moment? Can any of us do that? We can't, because the conscious mind controls voluntary movements in our bodies, which is actually very minimal. Now that you think of it, there's very little we can do voluntarily with our bodies. The subconscious mind controls involuntary organ functions, and hence most of it we cannot control. It keeps us alive. So our thoughts can be anything, but the fact is the heart is still beating and I'm still breathing and my liver is functioning and so is my kidney. So that's function number one. Function number two is storage. So this, imagine this space is like the hard drive of your computer. If your conscious mind is like the CPU, you know, the central processing unit. So you're constantly processing information that is coming in, but your subconscious mind is like the hard drive, which means it is just archiving. So all your experiences of your life from the time that you were in your mother's womb till now, imagine, is stored in that room full of archives as files. If the strength of the conscious mind is 1x, the strength of the subconscious mind is 6,000 times x. And this gives us an understanding why when we say, I want tomorrow morning, I will start my gym, I'm going to be physically fit, it's a conscious mind. But tomorrow, again, something or the other will happen. I'm just going to procrastinate it. So all those answers, all those questions, these illogical questions of your life that you can't answer with your conscious mind, the answers to those questions are always embedded in your subconscious mind. So, for example, I want to lose weight. I have tried all kinds of diets. I can't. I am looking for a healthy, harmonious, loving relationship, but I tend to attract all the wrong partners in my life. I want to earn more money, but no matter how hard I work, I can't. I can go on. There are so many examples of when I want something, I desire something, and I am not able to do it, which means there is a bigger force in our minds that is kind of ambushing or providing as a block. So the subconscious is the zone where we focus through hypnotherapy, through mind science, because all these blocks, these patterns, these unanswered questions in my mind are all there. And more interesting, this subconscious mind has again two parts. One part is called the modern memory, which is the memory of my life, how I have lived all my experiences. So if I ask you, what did you have for breakfast today? All of you can tell me. But if I ask you, what did you have for breakfast 93 days back? You may not. But that memory of that breakfast, the food that you had, the taste in your mouth, the smell of the food, each of those details is available in one of those files, which is in your subconscious mind. That is your modern memory, memory from your life. More interestingly, we also carry another part of the mind with what we call as the primitive mind. Now, primitive mind is like, files or imprints that we are carrying from generations before us. It is our evolutionary memory. It is our ancestral memory. Call it DNA, call it genetics, call it cellular memory. So not only does the subconscious carry my life experiences, it also carry life experiences of many, many generations before, my family, my lineage, my ancestry. So this is how this operates. So it's not that the conscious and subconscious are against each other. No, when my conscious desires match my subconscious patterns, life is good. Nobody comes to a hypnotherapist saying that, I am so beautiful that I want to change that, or I have so much money that I don't want to be rich. It's only when I want to earn money and I can't. Those are the areas when we are looking at the details of where is it coming from, because consciously I just can't make sense of it. Before I move on, one last part, because there is another part of the mind, what we call as the third part. Now, before getting into that, when I said survival, subconscious mind is also where we're storing our mechanism of survival, which is fight or flight. This is part of our, again, our DNA. And anytime there is a perceived threat, this is what we come up with. Either we confront it, we will fight it, or we run away from it. So coming to the third part of the mind is over the years, from 0 to 8 is what we develop as we call the critical mind. Now, in very simple words, critical mind is your belief systems, is what you carry in the zone of duality, what is good and what is bad. This is developed between the years 0 to 8, and it's completely a function of our upbringing, our environment, or what we call as our conditioning. And there are 4 factors that affect formation of our belief systems. And as you see on the screen, the first one is socio, so which is the S, which means the family I'm brought up in, the society around me influences my belief systems, my experiences as well. Number 2 is the E for education, the kind of education I receive or I don't receive as a child. Number 3 is economic, the economic setup, the financial status of the family, of the country, of the region that I'm brought up with. And last but not the least, the R is for religious beliefs of the family, of the environment, of the community. So in simple words, it's our conditioning that forms our critical filter. And this is kind of crystallizes and fixed at age 8. This is what I was referring a little while back about how we program ourselves. So from our experiences, how we program ourselves, how we develop this software. And after the age of 8, we are just running those programs. This doesn't mean that we are all lost cases, because none of us here is 8 years old or below. It just means that can you change it? Yes, you can. If you are then aware of, a belief system that is not serving you purpose, or while you are in hypnotherapy, you realize that, oh, I have been carrying this subconscious belief system for so long. Yes, there are many modalities, hypnotherapy being one of them, which we use very, very often to change our belief system. So what has been fixed at 8 can be rewired. So this is the science of reprogramming or rewiring what is not serving me any purpose. And how we do it is we are not going there to erase an experience. We don't say that, oh, this never happened. What we do is we neutralize that experience. Many experiences in our lives, for example, so experience has 2 parts. There is a fact. So for example, when I was 3 years old, I was bitten by a dog. And ever since then, I'm very scared of dogs. Which means my experience as a fact, which means I was bitten by a dog, is a fact. But what I'm also carrying from that experience is an emotional charge. So every time I see a dog, I start to panic like I did when I was 3 years old. My hands are sweaty and my throat is dry. What we work in hypnotherapy is not deleting the experience. Of course, I remember, and it's a fact that I was bitten by a dog. What we work on is neutralizing that excess charge that I'm still carrying today. So I'm separated, I am detached from my experience. So I am not equal to my experience. I have had an experience. And this detachment is huge, because when you detach, when you dissociate that, we are able to release those toxicities that we are carrying in those files that we saw in the previous slide. So the goal of hypnotherapy, or any mind science for that matter, is to reprogram our thoughts and beliefs by healing out our subconscious patterns which are conflicting with our conscious desires. Not all belief systems are bad, not all subconscious patterns are harmful. It may be that some has worked for us in the past, it doesn't work for us anymore. This is what we work with in hypnotherapy. Now, I'm aware I've spoken a lot and I've given you a lot of information about mind. So in case there is any questions, please again share in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer. And till I get any other questions, I'm just going to go back to now relating hypnosis with the science of the mind. As I explained that, you know, it's an altered state of mind. So when we say altered states, there are only 3 states we are talking about. We are talking of the state of being awake, which is like we are at the moment. And as we are aware, in this awake state, our conscious mind is totally awake and in control. So you can consciously come into the webinar, go out, type your comments, etc. But my subconscious mind is also awake and in control. And as you see, the subconscious mind is continually in all the states, it is awake and in control. Why? Because subconscious mind keeps us alive. So if subconscious is not awake and control, then we are not alive. So it's a given that subconscious mind will always be will be awake and in control. Now, when from awake we go to sleep state, you see, in sleep state, the only difference is the conscious mind is not present. It has no control. It is as if it is sleeping. Now see the difference between the between the sleep and the hypnotic state. In hypnotic state, in the trance state, the only difference is that your conscious mind is awake. It is not sleeping. So hence you're not sleeping in a session, but your conscious mind has no control. So your responses, your answers are more guided from the subconscious repertoire, that archive that we are talking about. That's the only difference. So you will be awake, a part of you is still awake, your conscious mind is still present, but you are not, the conscious mind is not controlling it. What we are working on is diving, so going from the top of the iceberg, from the conscious, we are entering into the space of the subconscious. Okay, let me have a quick look at the chat, if there's anything. No, there's nothing in the chats. Okay, so I'm going to go forward back into hypnotherapy. So now you know that hypnotherapy is based on the mind science. Hypnosis is a state in which you're able to access your subconscious. The inputs from the subconscious come up. Now, why hypnotherapy? Having known this, like, I'm pretty sure this gives a lot of information, but what is extremely important also to note that why do we use this science? Why is it, and today, like, it's become big time, like there's a huge demand for what we call as these complementary sciences. So this is not an alternate to medicine. So nowhere we say that do not go to doctors and come to therapists. No, it goes hand in hand. Many a times doctors will refer and we will refer to doctors. This goes hand in hand. So it's a complementary science. For me, this is a life skill. I believe this is something that should be taught in school, the basics of mind science, because it is it changes the way we look at things. It gives us so many answers to our unresolved questions. Again, second thing, why people opt for hypnotherapy is it's an extremely safe modality. Nothing can go wrong because, you know, your subconscious is in charge. Your subconscious controls your body function. So it's an extremely safe modality to work with. And it is extremely effective. According to, this is from the American Health Journal, as you see that after 6 sessions, the recovery rate is 93% compared to other modalities of behavioral therapy or even psychoanalysis. Now, this is not to say that one is better than the other. Different people react differently with different modalities, but this is an extremely safe, and the efficiency of it is very, very high in terms of the number of sessions that you need to take to, you know, overcome a situation. Again, frequently asked, who can be a hypnotherapist? Anyone. As I shared my background in the beginning, I do not come from a medical background. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I have never studied. I did study psychology later after I did my hypnotherapy, but for a hypnotherapist, there is no set of qualifications. I have had my students, because I'm also a teacher of hypnotherapy, and I see my students from all walks of life. Many a times they would start their career as a hypnotherapist after the session. Many times they are doctors who go back into their profession and they use that in their line of work. I've seen nurses, I have seen birth companions who use hypnobirthing in their professions. I've had teachers who use, like primary, secondary, high school teachers who use this science as a hypnotherapist also in their profession. So it could be anyone. It could also be somebody who doesn't have an ambition to do something as a career. So there are a lot of people who maintain their careers 9 to 5, and they still learn this because they do it for themselves. They do it for their family members, to improve their quality of life as well. All you need is, if this interests you, if you find it fascinating and you have that zest to learn. Now, where can you study? Well, I can guide you through my journey, and I studied through this institute called ECA, and I'm currently a teacher with them as well. So you could go to their website and you could know more about them. It's an ISO certified institute, established for many, many years, and they are renowned worldwide. They have affiliations across the world, and the certification at the end of the course is recognized many, many countries around the world. If you are in Dubai, if you're in Abu Dhabi, if you're in the UAE, you could definitely come and do the course at Illuminations. You could, that's available in Abu Dhabi and as well as in Dubai. We do a lot of seminars, webinars like the one I'm doing now. We do foundation courses for people who are new to this line of work and have many questions. And for students who once enroll and they're into the process, we hold support groups for them once a month to answer all their questions, if any theory needs to be repeated, if there's any practices to be helped with. So there is immense support in that. I will not take a lot of time to explain the course details. I'll request Illuminations to send you those details over email. Just to give you a preview that this institute, as I said, it's ISO standardized. They have affiliations with IMDHA, with the Tasser Institute in Netherlands, many, many other renowned organizations, bodies, and schools. After the 5 levels that we do as the regular course, you then become an intern with this institute, which means now you will start to practice on 10 different people. You need to do your case studies. You will work with real life cases. You will, if you want, the institute will also assign you a mentor, a practicing hypnotherapist who will help you through it. And this is a completely clinical and therapeutic application. This has got nothing to do with mind control or hypnotism. This is pure Western clinical hypnotherapy. Again, the course details, I will request Illuminations to send it to you. At the moment, the courses are available both online and on site. If you opt for online, you would later have to come back when things open up to do the practicals on site. Who certifies you? Yeah, again, a very, very frequently asked question. So ECA will certify you at each level. So once you do the theory, once you do the practical, ECA will come and you will be certified. You will get a certificate at every level. After you complete level 5, you will submit your case studies and you get a final certification. Now that final certification, you can get attested through Illuminations. You can get attested through the KHDA. So you have a very, very credible document on your hand if you're in this part of the world, if you're in Dubai, in UAE. And once you do that, you then get to apply for affiliations to international bodies like the IMDHA or with TASO. So you will be guided through that process. You would, for IMDHA, for example, you do write an online test, and once you pass that, you get your certification. So it's a very well reputed stream. It's a very well reputed organization that runs it, and it's got a very solid foundation all around the world. When can you start? Now, like anytime. If this interests you, if you feel this is something you want to start with, it's an extremely interesting course. You can do online, you can start online, you can finish it on site. If you need more information, you can contact Illuminations. They will book you a consult, and you register and you do the course. So that's what I had in mind for today. I will open up now for question answers. I will just check one more time if there's anything on the chat. Pia, just let me know if people can unmute themselves to ask questions, or do they need to type in? KHDA will, so there's a question after how many, I mean, you mean levels, Sheda, that KHDA will give the certificate. The KHDA certification is after level 5. Once you have submitted your case studies, a final certificate will come from the institute, from ECA. That certificate gets attested with the number of hours and everything with KHDA. So it's after level 5. Okay, I will take all the questions one by one. Just give me one moment. Yeah. Okay. Are there sessions in USA? You mean to do the course, Camille? Yes, I know of my own teacher, like the lady with whom I did level 1. She has her own institute now in US. So maybe offline Illuminations can share the details. But yes, there are service providers. So for example, see what happens is, because in UAE, you know, sometimes people move. You know, we move from one country to another. This course is, as I said, ISO certified, and it is like the same product is delivered. I know, top of my head, I can tell you Dubai, India, Singapore, Hong Kong, Nairobi, US. There are centers, like there are different centers like Illuminations who have who follow the ECA module, and you can do it in, for example, some people can do 3 levels here and then they move to the US. You can go and complete your course there. 100% you can. Is the qualification recognized in the UK? Every country will have a different way of registering. You know, for example, in UAE, we do the KHDA attestation. So I will have to check with the institute, but I'm pretty sure that with that diploma, with the certificate that you get, it may be different in UK vis-a-vis Australia, vis-a-vis US, but there will be certain things, but those are local, what do you say? Those are local criteria that you need to fill up. But if you are interested for the UK, I will ask the institute to check and let you know specifically for the country. Is there any exam? Yes, there is an exam. You do a written exam while you're in level 5. And after that, you complete your case studies. After your case studies, you will do an open book exam on the human anatomy, because in this line of work, it is very important for us therapists to know our body. So for example, the different systems, the respiratory system, the circulatory system. So it's an open book question. It's an open book test. You do get the study material. Everything is given to you. You will need to study and write that exam. So yes, there are 2 written exams. Lira, approximately how long is the whole journey before getting the certificate? Lira, it's very subjective. You know, you could do this program in 1 month, like before the lockdown and all. I know in India, they would hold like a retreat, and people would just go and do it in 1 month. In my experience as a teacher, I would say it is anywhere between 6 months to 1.5 years, but it's completely up to you. Some people do it really, really fast. Like they love it and they want to complete it. So they will do back to back. Some will take time. If you look at the calendar that Illuminations will circulate to you, you will see these are all rolling calendars. So for example, I did a level 1 last to last weekend on the 31st of August and the 31st of July and 1st of August. I have another batch this weekend on the 14th and 15th. So any of you who are interested, you can still join this current batch. I will again do it in another 3-4 weeks time. So it's rotating. So I'll keep doing level 1. The level 2 teacher will keep doing level 2. So it's up to you how, like my batch from the 31st of July is doing their level 2 this weekend. So it can be that fast. Completely up to you. Some people do it very fast. Some people say, I'm working, I will take time. 100% your choice. As I said, roughly between 6 months to 1.5 years is I have seen average people take. How much money average do I have to spend? I'm very bad with that. So I will ask Illuminations to mail you all the details. From what I know, each level is priced separately, but Illuminations offers a lot of discounts. So if you book in advance for all the levels, you will get solid discounts. If I'm not mistaken, like 10-20% or even more. But I'm not the right one to comment on the commercials. I will ask Illuminations to send you all the details. Okay, I think I've covered your questions, but if there is any more, please let me know if I've missed anyone's. Okay. I will be here. I'll wait if we have more questions. Yes, we have one more, Sheta. If you want to do the sessions faster, we have to wait for the group. Not always, Sheda. What happens, because there are multiple groups that are happening one after the other. Sometimes you do one level with one group. Now imagine there is another, like I'll give you the example of the group that I did last. So they decided some of them will do their level 2 in like 2 weeks time. So sometimes your group first level will be different from the classmates that you will have in the second level. They will keep happening. Sometimes the same batch moves. Sometimes other people from other batches also start to join. So for example, someone who has done say level 1 6 months back and maybe due to COVID has not been able to come back, they will come back now and join this level 2. So it's going to be a mixed group. You necessarily don't have to wait for your group or convince everybody. No, that Illuminations will organize the group, and the moment the group is there, you come and join and you do it. So you don't have to wait for the group. Welcome. It's like I did my level 1, 2, 3, 4 in like 4 months. I think it was so back to back, and I was so engrossed in it. I did it really fast because I wanted to do it. I was on a sabbatical from work, and I said, okay, this is what I want to do. Having said that, again, people who have other commitments or are working or managing their families, sometimes they take time. There is no hard and fast rule. You decide your speed. The levels will keep going. So any other question? Thank you, Marion. It's my pleasure completely. As I said, this is a topic which is very close to my heart, and I find it very satisfying to bring it, to all of you, because this is, as I said, this should be in school, and we should be learning the basics of mind science very, very early on in life. So it's a complete pleasure. Do many graduates from the training go on to be professional hypnotherapists? Yes, many of them. If I'm not mistaken, I think more than 80% of hypnotherapists in the country is through this course. I'm not sure, but that's what I have heard. But yes, many of them. So as I said, either they will graduate like me. I graduated and then I became a hypnotherapist and I started to practice. Sometimes people continue with their profession. Like for example, if a life coach is doing this training, maybe he or she will continue as a life coach, but will integrate clinical hypnotherapy in their practice. So could a doctor do, so could a nurse. But yes, many professionals. Rhiannon, if you just go to the website of ECA, and you look at, there's a space for all the registered therapists and all the registered trainers. So go to the therapists part and you will find the names, the phone numbers and the location of all the therapists. So you will see how many there are around the world. You just need to choose a location and they will show you for each location how many therapists they are. They're extremely big. They're extremely big. Lira, the unknown phobias like fear of spider, mice, snakes since childhood come from genes of ancestors in your experience of work with your clients. Lira, it could come from anywhere. We do not know. We don't assume. So it could be my own fear that is in in that diagram that I was showing you. That it could be my modern memory that I have this fear of lizard or snake or mice, or it could be ancestral. It is both. I have seen both with my experience. If you ask me, with my clients, both equally. Like, you never know. See, this is like, you go deep sea diving. You go to dive into the water. Now, which shore you're going to come up on, we don't know. But for sure, what we know is we will reach the right shore. So to answer your question, 50-50, it comes from everywhere. There is no trend. Thank you, Rhiannon. You loved it. Lida. Yeah, you can ask as many questions as you want. I'm here to answer. So yeah, it depends. Absolutely case to case basis. There is nothing is engraved in stone. This is a completely creative field and wonderful. It's like an amazing, that's the magical part of it. It's not a magical art. Hypnotherapy is not magical. It's clinical, but the magic is understanding the subconscious, the unconscious that we carry. How do you market for clients in hypnotherapy? Well, how do you market any other product? Same way, like, see, I'll tell you from my experience, because I'm associated with Illumination, so I don't do my own marketing. There's a department that takes care of it. If you're on your own, I know of my students, I know of my colleagues who would have their own websites. They would do what I'm doing, like, for example, webinars and seminars. You do trainings, you do talks, and online has come up very, very big time, and it works online. So this kind of work doesn't need your physical presence all the time. So you could even do it online. So you could market online. And when you market, you talk about, all aspects of our lives. You talk that this is a science, that you can work with your emotional issues, you can work with your physical issues, you can work with your mental issues. So you research on hypnotherapy, and as you do the course, you have so much information. You can use all of that to create your own content to market. And having said all that, I believe there is nothing better than word of the mouth. When you work with people and they heal and they see the power of this line of work, they will refer. So it's also been my personal experience of referrals working beautifully. There is nothing better than the quality of the work that you do. So once you start, that one satisfied client will give you 5 more, and those 5 will give you 25 more. If that answers your question, Camille, about marketing. My experience, that works. And yes, nowadays online presence works, on offline as well, if you would like to, but nothing like word of mouth. So I'm going to leave my details here on the screen in case anybody has any questions later. You can always contact me. You can contact Illuminations as well. But I am here for the next few moments. If there are more questions, I will be more than happy to answer. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you in class. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you, Nitu. Nitu, I hope now you understand the difference in psychotherapy vis-a-vis hypnotherapy. It's a little different. Both work well. As I say, I'm a fan of this line of work, but yeah, it's not that one is better than the other. Thank you. Yeah, it's slightly different. Welcome, Lira. My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Camille. Yes, it is fascinating to learn about the mind. And trust me, I have not even gone into the details. When we do the level one, it is much more like you will go into way details into the science of the mind. But yeah, it's very fascinating. Thank you. If there are no more questions, then I will log out. Pia, please let me know if it is okay to end it now, or would you like me to be available? Okay. Okay, then. Thank you so much for being here today. And I hope to see you soon in class. Take care. Bye. Bye, Lira. Bye bye. Thanks. Pia, bye.